Enough of this. What? You don't have the right to say that to me. My husband barged into my home office, wrecking the place regardless of whether I was working or not. Why does it come to this? Are you serious? His face was earnest. He criticized me for just playing around, even when I was working from home. And it wasn't just him. Talking to her is a waste of time. Yeah, you're right. I didn't know she was this useless. A bug would be more helpful, wouldn't it? Mom, that's insulting to the bug too. Sorry, I just couldn't hold back. Every day was a struggle to endure such treatment. My opinions were ignored, and they freely vented their frustrations on me. Then, one day, while I was in an important meeting at home, my husband unexpectedly entered the room. However, I didn't notice because I was wearing headphones. Get ready. You're unnecessary in this house. Just a parasite. I'm in a meeting right now. My mother-in-law, who came in later, started scolding me too. It was when I turned back to the computer to turn off the camera. The colleagues in the meeting screamed, "Run!" I turned around in shock. My husband was holding a bucket over his head and threw its contents at me. At that moment, I felt like everything was in slow motion for the first time in my life. Then I felt a burning heat all over my body. Stop! The bucket was filled with boiling water. Need to disinfect you more. It's still not enough. I thought I needed to get to the shower room to cool down. But I couldn't escape because my husband grabbed my arm. Where are you going? He pulled my arm and dragged me out of the room as if pulling me along. I was taken to the living room, where my mother-in-law continued to pour boiling water on me. How about that? Did we manage to disinfect her a bit? I wonder. It's a pretty big bug, after all. You, a freeloader, should get out of this house. I clenched my fists and stood up. I filled with anger to the point that I couldn't feel the heat from the boiling water. Of course, that's my plan. I retorted. You cannot survive out there. That's when I smirked. What are you laughing at? She must have lost her mind by now. I revealed my true self to them. You're saying you're the CEO of a company with an annual turnover of $400 million? Stop joking around. You must have really lost it. It's okay if you don't believe me. But you'll be the ones regretting it. I had been preparing for this day for a long time. I went back to my office room, got the divorce papers, and returned. Here, the divorce papers. This should do it, right? Are you serious? You were the ones who said it first. Ignoring their wailing, I left the house. A month later, my husband and his mother visited me. This was also part of my plan. I am Patricia Brown, and I've been working at the company I started with my friends during college. We were studying economics, but decided to do something fun and launched an e-commerce website. Handling various items, we were almost the same as some major companies. To avoid getting lost in the shuffle, we pushed a certain concept to the forefront. What's up, Linda? Linda was one of the original members. I had a great idea. What if we mainly handle products that seem like they wouldn't sell? What? I want to do something amazing. I've already got permission from the other members. Looking at the products Linda suggested, they indeed seemed like they wouldn't sell. But they were interesting due to good design or low price, and it felt like it might work. That could be interesting. Right? Want to give it a try? We'll give it a shot. At that time, we were doing it as a game until we graduated. So, some of the members already had jobs. However, our e-commerce website started to get a little attention online, and we were making a pretty decent profit. Especially since I didn't have a job, I decided to continue running it. Speaking of which, what's Linda gonna do? I'm gonna help you. I don't have anything else I want to do anyway. Then let's give it our all together. I have a favor to ask. I was surprised by the request. No way, I can't do that. Wouldn't you be better for that? Everyone else thinks so too. Behind my back again. Sorry. So, what do you think? I was hesitant, but it felt good to be relied on by everyone. All right. But in return, I'm gonna need you to work harder than ever as my right-hand woman. When I told my parents that I wasn't going to get a regular job and instead continue as a CEO, they didn't object and gave me their blessing. After that, our profits continued to rise steadily, and by the time I was 27, we went public. That's when I met Joshua. It happened at a store I often visited. Joshua was the owner, the business handed down through generations. It is so cute. Thank you for always coming. Please take your time looking around. Will do. I highly rated the cozy atmosphere of the store and the fact that it stocked not only American but also foreign products. I kept going there regularly. As I visited multiple times, we started to have various conversations. Originally, Joshua was an employee. But the store was at risk of closing down after his father passed away. Weren't you scared? Of course, I was scared. But I grew up here. Also, my mom has a bad back, and I was the only one left. I see. Though, to be honest, the sales have been tough. Then Joshua shared something that startled me. Also, it might bore you, but when I took over the store, I was almost tricked by someone I thought was a friend. Really? Yeah. He was the owner of a real estate company. If I had gone along with his plan, he would have taken the store from me. He laughed it off, but I could tell he had been through a lot. That's why I kinda feel a bit of disgust when I hear the title of CEO. I'm a CEO too, but maybe I shouldn't say that. By the way, what do you do, Patricia? I could say I'm an engineer? Wow, that's impressive. It wasn't a complete lie. When we were launching the site, I helped my friends so I had some knowledge too. There was no turning back. I continued to visit the store, hoping to contribute in any way by purchasing various products. It was about half a year after I started visiting the store regularly. One day, as usual, I went to the store, and Joshua invited me out. We had talked a lot before, so we had a good relationship. I couldn't say yes right away. It wasn't that I didn't want to. I knew Joshua was serious and cared a lot about his family. Is it a no? Seeing his slightly sad face, I said I would go. I didn't fully understand why I made that decision at the time. After several dates, Joshua confessed to me. That was when I truly realized I liked Joshua. 6 months later, he proposed, and we went to meet his family for a marriage introduction. I'm still nervous. Don't worry. My mom is really kind. I just hope they'll accept me. While we were talking about this, we arrived at his parents' house. Welcome. You must be Patricia, whom Joshua has been talking about. Yes. The conversation went smoothly from there. So, Patricia, what do you think about living together with me? Living together? I don't particularly mind. I guess that might happen eventually. That's good to hear. The smile on my mother-in-law's face during this time stayed in my mind for a while. I had no idea about the devilish aspect hidden behind her smile. It was just 1 week after we registered our marriage. By the way, what are we going to do about our house? That's already been decided. What? I hadn't heard anything about it. I don't remember to discuss this before. Let's go for now. Wait a minute. Joshua took me to his parents' house, where we had just visited. Is this where we're going to live? From today, you'll be living here. Remember what Mom said the other day? Oh. I thought to myself, how could I be so foolish? The question my mother-in-law asked wasn't about eventually, it was about now. I couldn't exactly say no. I endure the desire to enjoy a newlywed life, just the two of us. Having spoken to her only once, I optimistically thought it would be okay since my mother-in-law seemed kind. Looking forward to living with you. I look forward to it too. There's one thing I want you to remember. don't forget that you've become a wife in this house." Yes, I remember. The next day, my moving boxes arrived, and I was allowed to use an empty room as my office. The change started to appear a week later. "Patricia, do you remember what I told you?" That you've become a wife in this house." "I remember that, but..." "Good, because you're going to start working from today." Then, my mother-in-law handed me a broom and a trash box. "I'm sorry, but I have work." "What? This is more important than that." Suddenly, I was scolded. And she watched me the entire time I started cleaning. Joshua was at the store and not at home. I had no choice but to follow my mother-in-law's orders. "Have you never cleaned before, Patricia?" "I have." "Then move more quickly." It was as if she had become a different person, giving orders. And it was just the beginning. She even started taking my money. My mother-in-law had been a housewife and wasn't working now. Remember, this is also part of a wife's duties. That can't be right. But I couldn't say that to her. I can understand about that. From then on, she did whatever she wanted. While I was out, she would eat the food from the fridge or order expensive steak and make me pay for it. Of course, I didn't get to eat any. "I need to talk to you about something." "Yeah, tell me anything." "It's about your mom." In an instant, I could see Joshua's face cloud over. Did something happen with my mom? How should I put this? She's been really tough on me. I tried to put it mildly. "I see. Can you tell me specifically what she's done?" I explained everything that had happened so far. As I talked, he nodded along, so I hoped he would speak up on my behalf. But that night, during dinner with the three of us, "Patricia, you tattled to Joshua, didn't you?" I looked at Joshua. He continued eating, seemingly unfazed by me. "You're causing unnecessary trouble." "That's because..." I silently begged Joshua to say something. Joshua put down his chopsticks and sighed softly. Just to clear things up, dealing with parents is also part of a wife's duties. He said, the complete opposite of what I expected. "Joshua is right. You just need to do things for us. Your opinion isn't needed. That's too much. Respecting your parents is just basic decency. If you can't do that, what can you do?" We were completely at an impasse. This wasn't the person I thought I married. After dinner, Joshua went back to his room. Left alone with my mother-in-law, I felt utterly powerless to resist. "If this happens again, you'll be skipping meals." I chose not to answer. But that only seemed to make trouble bigger. "Do you listen to me?" While I was looking down, she splashed water on me. When I looked up, my mother-in-law was just smirking. As I stood up and tried to go back to my office, she stopped me. "You still have cleanup to do. That's your job, isn't it?" I bit my lip and went back to do the dishes. We're not monsters, you know. As long as you do what you're supposed to, that's all that matters. "What are you saying?" "You're already acting like a monster. Do you have something you want to say?" "No, nothing." After finishing the chores, I headed to my office. It was the one place in the house where I could be alone without anyone bothering me. I started to think about the future. I didn't want to continue being used in this house. I thought about consulting my parents, but the memory of their smiles when I announced my marriage came back to me. I can't disappoint them. Especially since it hasn't even been half a year since I got married. Besides, if I do everything she asks me to do, there shouldn't be any complaints. I psyched myself up again. I could bring up divorce when the time was right. That was what I thought. That's the spirit I see in you today. I guess I had the wrong idea before. From now on, I'll work hard for this family. That's the right attitude. Once I started managing the household chores nearly perfectly, my mother-in-law, who had always been so critical, suddenly started treating me kindly, which made me unexpectedly happy. Eventually, we even started going out together. I should have been doing this from the start. After that, I was able to live peacefully, except for Joshua. It seemed Joshua didn't like that I was getting along well with his mother. I hadn't noticed before, but Joshua really loves his mother. Joshua started plotting to drive a wedge between me and his mother. Sorry, but I need you to help out at the store from tomorrow. Help out at the store? But I have my work at home too. It's not like it's anything significant. You can bring your laptop along, can't you? What will you be doing during that time? What? You know I'll be taking a day off. I couldn't help but sigh. You'll do it, right? To be honest, I liked the store. Thinking positively, if I could work in that atmosphere, it might not be so bad. Okay, but not every day. All right. We're closed on Thursdays, so I'm counting on you from Monday to Wednesday. I agreed and started working at the store. But customers were scarce. There were days when not a single person came in from morning to evening. That's when I decided to try selling online through a web shop. I also used social media. Gradually, sales began to increase. It seems like sales have been going up lately. Yes, they have. So, my sense of style must be good. Maybe so. Most of the items in the store were sourced by Joshua. I admit that his taste in sourcing the products was a factor. However, that alone doesn't make products sell. In fact, it wouldn't be wrong to say it sold well because of the adjustments I made. I deliberately kept that fact hidden. Because I thought he wouldn't admit it anyway. Then, Joshua, misunderstanding the situation, started to get carried away. What's this about? Oh, this? I always wanted it, so I bought it. Cool, right? Joshua had bought a luxury car without discussing it with me, using most of our earnings. Without discussing it first? While we were arguing, my mother-in-law, who had just returned from shopping, caught us. What are you two doing here? Joshua bought a car on his own, using almost all of our earnings. Since my relationship with my mother-in-law was good at the time, she took my side without hesitation. What are you thinking? We don't need something like this. Joshua ended up getting scolded by his mother. Apparently, he couldn't stand up to her and just made excuses. Don't say unnecessary things. Hiding it won't change anything. It's just a matter of sooner or later. Damn it. Honestly, with my income included, money wasn't a worry, but continuing like this would definitely lead to ruin. It was one thing for Joshua, but I wanted to avoid affecting my mother-in-law. So, I figured if there was no money to be used, it would solve the problem, and I began reducing the inventory of our online shop. The strategy worked. Since I had been managing the sales and inventory since being asked to help at the store, Joshua could only know the financial situation through the sales reports I provided. So, how are sales this month? It seemed Joshua hadn't learned his lesson. This much for this month. That's it? Isn't that a bit low? That's the tough part of doing business, isn't it? Well, I guess so. After adjusting the sales for a few months, Joshua came up with an outrageous accusation. It happened one night. You're skimming the store's earnings, aren't you? What? I'm not doing anything like that. It's strange that the monthly earnings suddenly dropped. You must be embezzling. Do you have any proof? It started when you were managing the store. That's when the sales began to drop. Just because the sales drop doesn't mean I'm skimming money, right? Are you fighting again? This one has been skimming sales and keeping the money for herself. Patricia has. I haven't done anything like that. Neither of us backed down, and the argument continued for a while. The day ended with my mother-in-law's mediation, but 2 days later, things took an unexpected turn. So, it was you taking the store's money after all. This again? I told you, I didn't do it. Then what's this? Joshua was holding an envelope. Inside it seemed to be a large sum of money, easily a few $1,000s. This was found in your office. You were hiding it, but unfortunately for you, now everyone can see. See, Mom? With this much evidence, I have no choice but to believe it. Wait, please. I didn't do anything like that. Believe me. Stop embarrassing yourself. Just admit your wrongdoing. I've been framed. I couldn't believe he would go to such lengths. Looking at my mother-in-law, she seemed to fully believe Joshua. It's a shame. I thought we were finally getting along. I really didn't. That's enough. I felt everything we had built crumbling down at that moment. The hellish times were returning. Forbidden from going to the store, I was confined to the house, forced to do chores as if I were imprisoned. On top of the usual housework, I was also sent out to the convenience store in the middle of the night. Hey! What's with this awful meal? Are you messing with me? Even in situations where my mother-in-law would have intervened before, she now ignored everything. It's cruel to bully her like this. But she needs to understand her place, right? Patricia. Yes. Then my mother-in-law threw the food into the nearby trash can. What are you doing? I thought it tasted bad. So, make it again. Now? Of course. You committed theft. This isn't even punishment. Even if she makes it again, it might still taste bad. Why don't we go out to eat? That sounds good. So you take care of the rest. The two of them left to eat out. Left alone in the house, I realized living with these people was impossible. I quickly finished cleaning up and secluded myself in my room. I shut down the online shop that I had contributed to for sales. This would surely impact them later. After all, there were barely any sales even before I started managing the store. By the time they realized, I wouldn't be in this house anymore. I also cleverly used shopping time to acquire a divorce form. I planned to confront them at the perfect moment. It happened while I was working as usual. Joshua entered the room, searching for hidden money in shelves and drawers. Stop it already! What? You don't have the right to say that to me. Why does it have to be like this? Are you serious? Joshua was earnest. Since it was his own lie, he couldn't back down now. Even when I was working from home, he accused me of just playing around. And it wasn't just Joshua. Talking to her is a waste of time. Yeah, you're right. I didn't know she was this useless. A bug would be more useful, wouldn't it? Mom, that's insulting to the bug too. Sorry, I just couldn't hold back. Every day was a struggle to endure. My opinions were ignored, and they freely vented their frustrations on me. Then, one day, while I was in an important meeting at home, Joshua unexpectedly entered the room. However, I didn't notice because I was wearing headphones. Get ready. You're unnecessary in this house. Just a parasite. I'm in a meeting right now. My mother-in-law, who came in later, started scolding me too. It was when I turned back to the computer to turn off the camera. The colleagues in the meeting screamed, "Run!" I turned around in shock. Joshua was holding a bucket over his head and threw its contents at me. At that moment, I felt like everything was in slow motion for the first time in my life. Then I felt a burning heat all over my body. Stop! The bucket was filled with boiling water. We need to disinfect you more. It's still not enough. I thought it was bad. I tried to head to the shower room. However, Joshua grabbed my arm, making it impossible for me to escape. Where are you going? He pulled my arm, dragging me out of the room like he was pulling me along. I was taken to the living room, where my mother-in-law continued to pour boiling water on me. How about that? Did we manage to disinfect you a bit? It's a pretty big bug, after all. You, a freeloader, should get out of this house. I clenched my fists and stood up. I filled with anger to the point that I couldn't feel the heat from the boiling water. Of course, that's my plan. I retorted. You cannot survive without us. That's when I smirked. What are you laughing at? She must have lost her mind by now. I revealed my true self to them. You're saying you're the CEO of a company with an annual turnover of $400 million? Stop joking around. They must have really lost it. It's okay if you don't believe me. But you'll be the ones regretting it. I had been preparing for this day for a long time. I went back to my office room, got the divorce papers, and returned. Here, the divorce papers. This should do it, right? Are you serious? You were the ones who said it first. Ignoring their wailing, I left the house. My destination was my parents' home. Standing at the front door, I hesitated to open it. I didn't want to come back here like this. Then I heard a voice from behind. Turning around, there stood my mother. Patricia? What's wrong? Mom. Sensing something was off, my mother gently led me inside. How is it? Tasty, right? Yeah. Your coffee is always the best, Mom. So, what brings you here at this time? Well, you see. I explained everything to my mother. Even my usually calm mother was furious this time. What? That's unbelievable. But I've been preparing for this. Really? Yes. We waited for my father to come home and told him everything that had happened. My father was ready to confront them immediately, but I stopped him. Why stop me? My daughter has been mistreated. Please calm down. They will come to us eventually. What do you mean? Just wait and see. That night, I received a call from Linda. Are you okay? It was chaos after you left. Sorry, a lot happened after that too. Are you all right now? For now, yes. I'm back at my parents' house. About today. Sorry for interrupting the important meeting. Then I remembered something crucial. Linda. We always record the meetings for documentation, right? Yes, we recorded today's meeting as usual. Oh, are you thinking what I think you are? Did you realize too? Yes. Can you send that to me later? Okay. Unexpectedly, I obtained the strongest evidence. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in a while. A month later, Joshua and his mother came to see me. Please, help us. I was waiting for you. What? You're out of money and in trouble, right? You're a CEO, right? We're still married. If this continues, we'll have to give up the store. That has nothing to do with me. About the divorce papers you gave me. Did you bring them filled out? Joshua took out a folded divorce form from his pocket. Could you give it to me quickly? It's meaningless. With that, he tore it up in front of me. The only thing meaningless here is you. Now you understand. Give up and come back. Let's live together again. Sleep talking should take place when you're sleeping. I had something up my sleeve that would plunge them further into hell. Just come back without any fuss. That's impossible. This should make things clear. I showed them the recorded video of the meeting. That clearly captured the moment I was doused with boiling water. Now do you understand? How did you get this? You'll never understand. What? This can serve as solid evidence of domestic violence, and I was actually planning to go to the police with it. Shall we go together? Joshua? What should we do? Wait a minute. I'm thinking. They looked like they were about to start arguing right there. Then, my father appeared. Patricia. Dad! I thought I'd come and say a word. After all, we need to properly thank those who bullied my daughter. Seeing my father, Joshua and his mother were visibly scared. Maybe we should just give up. We can't back down now. You'd better listen to your mother. What should we do with these two? My father was more than ready. It's a hassle. Maybe we should just call the police now. I took out my smartphone. Seeing this, the two of them fled the scene. But little did they know, there was no escaping this. How foolish. They have nowhere to run. It's just the beginning. If you had gotten involved, we'd be the ones calling the police. My father and I shared a laugh, looking at each other. Now, for the final touch. First, I headed to the police station with the evidence. Based on the video evidence, they would initiate an investigation. And not just that, I also went to a law firm to proceed with the divorce. Linda, thanks for last time. It really helped me out. I just did what anyone would. Patricia is an important friend and also the president of our company, after all. The latter reason is the real deal, isn't it? Who knows? After that, Joshua and I successfully finalized our divorce. While he wasn't arrested for domestic violence, he did end up having to pay a fine. Moreover, considering everything that happened since we got married, I decided to make them apologize me. To me, having Joshua fall into hell through his beloved money seemed most fitting. Later, I went to a certain place. It's been a while. Patricia. What are you doing here? You put this store up for sale, right? And it seems like you've also accumulated some debt. Where did you hear that? I had a lawyer investigate everything about Joshua. It turns out he had been borrowing money regularly to cover living expenses. And it seems his mother didn't know about this fact. This store is no longer yours. What do you mean? Forgot who I am? You can't be you. Exactly. This store is mine from today. I'll make good use of it. Now, why don't you hurry back to your mommy? No way. I'm sure she'll comfort you. Leaving Joshua collapsed on his knees, I walked away. Afterward, I renovated the purchased store and revived it as a new shop. Of course, the sales are doing well. We are still growing and have much more to achieve. My name is Isabella Taylor, I'm 30 years old. I've been married to Eric for 3 years. And now, I've put an end to our 3 years of marriage. I left a box packed with important things as a final gift. What's this box? I'm gonna toss any forgotten stuff. No way. That's something important to you. I love talking to people and worked at a local company valuing communication, where I met Eric. Initially, just co-workers, we gradually grew to cherish each other's presence. Let's keep pushing through, together, we'd encourage each other. One day, Eric took me to a restaurant. Then he proposed, saying, I want to be with you forever. Of course, I said yes. As we prepared for our wedding, Eric told me he wanted me to focus on housework. Though I was keen on continuing my fulfilling career, persuaded by Eric, I resigned amidst my boss and colleagues' regrets. On my last day, my boss said, You're always welcome back if you decide to return to work, leaving me with mixed feelings but excited for the new life with Eric. Being a homemaker was busier and more fulfilling than expected. I've always loved cooking and even got hooked on creating budget recipes. As a homemaker, managing finance was essential, so cleaning and managing the home filled my days quickly. Yet, I always hoped to return to work someday, so I also studied for certifications to upgrade my skills. One Sunday afternoon, folding laundry, I grew increasingly irritated with Eric's attitude. Even as I ran the washing machine since morning, vacuumed, and cleaned the bathroom, Eric just lounged on the couch, scrolling through his phone, not offering to help at all. If you'd help a bit, we could have more time to relax together. Eric thinks it's natural for me, a full-time homemaker, to handle all household chores. Today, we were supposed to visit my in-laws in the evening. Their place is just a 10-minute drive away, so we're often called over for visits. But truth be told, I find my in-laws difficult to deal with. Eric, Isabella, welcome. Good evening. I didn't want to always be on the receiving end of your hospitality, so I brought some dishes I made. Oh, how thoughtful of you. What should have been a cozy family dinner started with, if Mia had made this, it would have been much nicer. Maybe you should improve your cooking. Mia's cooking was always delicious. My in-laws are always like this. I thought I was pretty confident in my cooking. Everyone else always says it's delicious. Normally, you'd expect a husband to stand up for his wife when in-laws say such harsh things, but Eric joined in, praising Mia with them. Mia is Eric's ex-girlfriend. They say he dated before me. Mia's stories again. Every time we visit my in-laws, the conversation always centers around Eric's ex-girlfriend, with both my in-laws and Eric joining in. I wish they would stop. It's always like this, with me feeling left out, and the conversation constantly revolving around Mia. I really thought Eric would marry Mia. Well, things happen. Even though we're invited over to my in-laws' place, I end up just listening to this kind of talk. There's no need for me to be here then. It was just a suffocating time of silently eating. The only conversation directed at me was, Isabella, still no kids? You're not getting any younger, and since you're not working, having a child is about all you can do. Yeah, Mom's right. It's not like you're good for anything else, considering we don't have kids. Even Eric joins his parents in making it seem like it's my fault we don't have children. That's why I hated going to your parents' place. On the way home, I asked Eric, don't you think what was said at your parents' place today was a bit much? He looked surprised. What do you mean? All the talk about your ex in front of me. Oh, that? The stuff about Mia is all in the past. I'm married to you now, so it shouldn't matter. Eric's words did nothing to ease my worries or make me feel any better. The fact that we're married doesn't justify glorifying his past relationships with the words of Eric and his parents. And what's this about only being good for having kids? That's a horrible thing to say. It sounds like it's all my fault. Well, we don't have kids yet, so it can't be helped. Even if that's the case, it's a problem for both of us, not just me alone. Just let it slide. You really sweat the small stuff. I felt our happy married life crumbling away. Hoping to improve my relationship with my in-laws, I continued to visit their home, only to hear Mia was so honest and adorable. If only we had a grandchild that looked like her. Why did you break up with Mia? It was always about Mia, making me feel invisible. I would have preferred to marry Mia. Mia was out of your league, really. Isabella is more your speed. They even went as far as to say things like that, making me wonder, what am I to you? If that's how you feel, you should have married Mia. My doubts about Eric grew, and I found myself trusting him less and less. And I started thinking, maybe we can't go on like this. Around that time, Eric began coming home late and often went out until late at night. One evening, while Eric was showering, his smartphone rang on the living room table. Who could that be at this hour? The screen showed, had a great time today. When can we meet again? What does meet again mean? I thought you had a work dinner tonight. My heart turned cold, and I left the smartphone on the table without opening the message, but my suspicions only grew. As days passed, my heart grew heavier. Our relationship showed no signs of improving, and the pressure from my in-laws only increased day by day. My in-laws continued to praise Mia unabashedly and openly scorn me. Even though Isabella is a homemaker, she's not good at housework. Mia would have done a much better job. My in-laws would say, and Eric would just agree with them every time. He never defended or stood up for his wife. One night, after Eric went to bed early, I sat on the living room couch and started searching for something online. That indifferent attitude towards his own wife. Eric is suspicious. He might be having an affair. As I looked up signs of an affair and how to deal with it, something inside me began to change. I wanted to prioritize my own happiness. And the desire to confirm my suspicions grew stronger. I stumbled upon an article titled Actions of a Wife Suspecting an Affair and wondered, is this what I should do? The article outlined steps to turn suspicion into certainty. Stay calm, gather evidence, and then make the best choice for oneself. And I decided to take that step. Today, I was meeting my best friend, Samantha, after a long time. Samantha had taken a day off to have a leisurely lunch with me. Samantha works for a company which is a business partner of Eric, and we became best friends when I was working because we got along so well. How have you been? It's been 3 years since you left your job, right? Yeah, being a homemaker is fulfilling and fun. You were always so driven at work. It's hard to believe you're content with being a homemaker. When I decide to do something, whether it's work or household chores, I go all out. I'm a perfectionist. That's true. Your home is always spotless whenever I visit, and I admire that. Plus, you've gotten into cooking recently, right? The dishes you post on social media look professional. Well, you know me. I like to excel at everything. Eric's lucky to have married you. That's what you'd think, but it doesn't seem that way. I shared with Samantha about Mia, the derogatory comments from my in-laws and Eric. That's terrible of Eric and his parents. What do they think of you? It's like I'm just a bad maid to them. There was even a message from another woman on Eric's phone late at night. Probably. No way! Is he cheating? Maybe you should confront him. But I don't have solid proof yet, and I'm thinking maybe I should let him slip up. I see. I'll help however I can, just let me know. Thank you, Samantha. I felt grateful to have a friend who understood me. After lunch with Samantha, on my way home, I accidentally spotted Eric. Is that Eric? Who's the woman next to him? It's still work hours. Maybe a colleague? But they seem pretty close. Wait, is that Eric? The woman next to him. Mia? Is that Mia? How do you know her? Mia's a colleague of mine. She's known for jumping from guy to guy. That Mia is Eric's ex we were just talking about. Really? The one who's supposedly good at cooking? No way. That woman can't cook to save her life. She's just good at pretending. Samantha, do you have time? I need a favor. Of course. Let's follow them. And so, Samantha and I decided to tail Eric and Mia. In broad daylight, they went into a hotel. Just as I thought. My suspicions were confirmed. Isabella, are you okay? Yeah, I was prepared for this, so I'm fine. We decided to wait for them to come out. Do you mind if I make a quick call? Sure, go ahead. Hello. I'm Eric Taylor's wife. I need to urgently reach my husband due to a family matter, but I can't seem to get through. I see, I'll try contacting him from here. If you can't reach him, could you please inform his supervisor about this? All right. Thank you very much. Then, we took photos of them entering and leaving the hotel. Samantha, thank you. No problem. Just say the word and I'll help out. Can I ask you for one more favor? Of course. As if nothing had happened, I went home and started preparing dinner, but my revenge had quietly begun. I started to observe Eric's movements more carefully. The days he came home late, his reasons for going out, and how he handled his smartphone. While Eric was sleeping, I gently picked up his smartphone and unlocked it with my heart racing. The messages, photos, and his schedule. I found all confirmed my suspicions were correct. I felt a strong need to take action to escape this situation. The next day, I went to a law firm for consultation. Photos proving Eric was still involved with his ex-girlfriend Mia in an affair. Audio evidence of my in-laws demeaning me by bringing up the ex-girlfriend. I've been verbally abused by my husband and in-laws for a long time. And my husband is having an affair. I want to file for damages against my husband and in-laws. The evidence will serve as solid proof. Let's prepare a demand letter for damages based on this. Claiming damages for the verbal abuse from your in-laws is possible with this much evidence. My preparations were steadily advancing. Then one day, Eric suddenly called me into the living room with a heavy atmosphere. Isabella, I have something to tell you. What? Why so formal? My mistress Mia is pregnant. That's why I want a divorce. At that moment, my heart turned ice cold, yet it felt like I was being confronted with a reality I had been prepared for. What? Eric continued talking without meeting my eyes. Both your dad and mom know. They're thrilled about having a grandchild." Those words filled me with deep despair, but at the same time, I was convinced of the importance of the evidence I had collected. Over the past few months, Eric's unnaturally late returns home had increased. Samantha and I tailed him, found messages and photos on his smartphone, and captured photos of them entering a hotel. All these proved my suspicions were correct. That night, I resolved to take revenge on Eric, Mia, and my in-laws. The next morning, Eric said, "I want you to leave today. I want to live here with Mia as soon as possible," before he went to work. Selfish man. He has no idea what's coming. I plan to leave today. I started packing my things in the morning. I was going to stay at my best friend Samantha's place for a while. But first, there's something I need to do. I went to the law firm in the morning. My husband didn't just have an affair, he got her pregnant. That's terrible. The demand letter is ready. They have the obligation to pay a fair amount. Don't worry, I'll assist you. Thank you. I felt supported having a competent lawyer by my side. After consulting the lawyer, I went back home to continue my preparations to leave. Alone in the living room, I quietly started packing the evidence into a box to show them. Then, I placed the box in a conspicuous spot in the room. Before leaving the house, I wrote a letter to my in-laws. I have always tried to build a good relationship, but I have always been compared to Mia and felt like I wasn't accepted as part of the family. Your reaction to it has deeply hurt me, making me feel lonely and betrayed. I've collected evidence and left it in Eric's room. I want you to know the truth and understand the betrayal I felt. There you go. With that, I bid farewell to my married life. I vowed to see the impact my actions would have on Eric, Mia, and my in-laws. Then, I mailed the letter and the demand letter for compensation to my in-laws' house. Afterwards, I dropped another envelope in the mailbox and headed to Eric's company. I need to get back to work myself. I offered to return to my previous job. My former boss welcomed me back with open arms. Having Isabella, now a popular cooking influencer on social media, return as the face of our kitchenware company will surely double our popularity. Yes, that's right. My hobby of posting cooking content on social media has made me quite popular, and now I'm known as a famous cook. Then, I'll be starting next week, I said, leaving the company. Then, Eric and Mia came back from work. What's this box? I'll throw away any forgotten stuff. Thinking it wasn't his, Eric contacted me. No way. That's something important for you. Important for me? What is it? Eric said, looking inside the box. What is this? Why are these here? The box was filled with photos of the affair, them entering the hotel, leaving the hotel, going to the doctor together, shopping for baby supplies with my in-laws, and many more undeniable proofs of the affair and abuse. At the very bottom of the box was a demand letter for compensation and divorce papers, along with a sticky note that read, "Please fill out the divorce papers and arrange for the payment of compensation." Also included was an envelope with instructions. Please open this envelope with Mia. What's this envelope about? What does it mean, open with me? The two of them opened the envelope. This was actually something I had asked Samantha to do. Since Mia was known to switch partners frequently, I had her investigate Mia's other relationships. I suspected that the baby might not be Eric's, so I also had Samantha look into who the father could be. Since Samantha was Mia's colleague, she could easily gather information on Mia's other relationships and quickly obtained photos of Mia with other men. It turned out Mia was dating two other men besides Eric. One was a guy named Lucas, and another was David, who, like Eric, was already married. On the days Eric wasn't around, either David or Lucas would visit Mia's place. Apparently, Lucas was the main man, and the baby was likely his. However, Lucas didn't want the child, so the plan was to have Eric divorce and marry Mia to raise the child together, and David, another affair partner, was expected to pay child support. What a woman! Hearing about such a homewrecker is astonishing. Upon seeing the evidence photos, Eric exclaimed, "Mia, what's the meaning of this?"
Well, these people are just friends. Friends walk arm in arm into a hotel? It's not like that.
What do you mean not like that?
You had other men? There's no one else. It's not like that.
Naturally, Eric and Mia faced a huge confrontation afterward. And I had one more thing to do. On the day I confirmed Eric and Mia entering a hotel, I had called his company claiming an urgent need to contact Eric. Despite multiple attempts, his colleagues couldn't reach him on his phone. Of course, he was busy enjoying his time off. Unable to reach Eric, his colleague naturally reported it to their supervisor. Though Eric managed to smooth things over somewhat, his supervisor and colleagues harbored doubts. Then, an anonymous letter arrived at the HR department. It was the letter I had mailed earlier. The letter reported an employee engaging in an affair during work hours, accompanied by photos of them entering and exiting a hotel, timestamped with a smartphone clock. The photos made it immediately clear that the employee was Eric, and the woman was Mia from a partner company. The photos' date and time matched the day I called Eric's company and the day his colleagues couldn't reach him, leading inevitably to Eric being summoned by his supervisor.
What were you doing during work hours? This is a misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? This evidence is clear to anyone who sees it. Who took these photos? Could it be Isabella? It doesn't matter who. We will announce your disciplinary action later.
Yes. Similarly, Mia's company was contacted by Eric's company, and the affair during work hours was revealed.
Why such photos?
Despite her attempts at excuses, the irrefutable evidence meant she couldn't escape responsibility. At Eric's parents' house, a letter from Isabella? They opened the letter. It contained evidence photos of Eric and Mia's affair, as well as photos showing Mia was involved with other men. His parents had indeed been fond of Mia, had wanted her back, and were aware that they had spoken harshly to me.
This has turned into a serious issue. We never thought she would go this far.
His parents also received a notification of a claim for damages for their verbal abuse towards me. When they heard that Mia was pregnant with Eric's child, they were overjoyed about the grandchild. The envelope also included various photos of Mia with other men.
Is the child really Eric's?
With these photos, the prospect of welcoming a grandchild now seemed dubious.
We're living on our pension. We don't have money to pay for damages. But we can't escape this claim for compensation.
It was then that they realized the magnitude of their actions. Later, I received a call from Eric.
Isabella, what have you done?
His voice was filled with panic.
Everything is the result of yours and Mia's actions, isn't it? I'm the wife you cheated on. Well, soon-to-be ex-wife. You're not working. You won't be able to survive after the divorce, right?
Even now, Eric was trying to belittle me.
You don't have to worry about me. I have job prospects. I've been welcomed back to the company.
The same company as you.
What do you mean? There's no way you can work now. After not working for 3 years, you can't just go back to your old job. That's ridiculous. Well, my boss and colleagues are all welcoming me back. What can someone like you do?
You didn't know, did you?
I have 100,000 followers on SNS and am known as a cooking influencer. What's that? You, a cooking influencer? Yes, I plan to contribute a lot to the company. You should worry about yourself rather than others. What are you talking about? We're going to be in the same workplace again.
We'll see. Later, as expected, I heard that both Eric and Mia were fired from their jobs.
Damn it! How did it come to this?
No matter what he said now, it was too late to change anything. Through this incident with Mia, David, another man she was involved with, also had his affair discovered by his wife. Mia insisted the child was Eric's, but Eric, unable to trust her, conducted a paternity test after the child was born. The result confirmed that the child was not his. David also had a paternity test, which confirmed the child was not his either. So it turned out the child was indeed Lucas's. Mia ended up being abandoned by both Eric and David and went to Lucas, claiming the child was his. But soon after, Lucas disappeared.
Lucas! Why? Where did you go?
Mia was left to deal with the alimony for 2 wives on top of raising the child. Having confirmed the alimony payments, Eric and Mia found themselves in debt to manage the huge amount, far from their once comfortable lifestyle. After losing her job, Mia reluctantly took up night work to repay her debts. The young child, inevitably, wasn't properly taken care of by Mia and ended up being raised by Mia's parents. Eric, too, found himself juggling multiple part-time jobs, cutting back on sleep to make ends meet. His parents deeply regretted their actions, realizing they had spoiled their son and his wife's life by favoring Mia and being cold to me. Moreover, their relationship breakdown resulted in them losing the chance to see their grandchild, and the family bond was lost. Gradually, Eric started blaming everything on his parents. He severed ties with them and shockingly proposed to me for reconciliation.
Isabella, can't we start over? I've cut ties with my parents, so you don't have to worry. I'll protect you from now on. So, alimony, can we forget about it?
Hearing Eric speak with such delusion, I felt dizzy. What is he talking about? Eric, still blaming his parents for everything and absolving himself of any guilt. Hopeless. Why would I ever reconcile with you?
Take responsibility for your actions and pay the alimony. And don't contact me ever again.
Eric, Mia, and his parents faced the hard truth that they couldn't turn back time to the happy days of their family. And my new days began with the revival of my dream career and life. Returning to work after days as a homemaker, I rediscovered the satisfaction of my job. My social media account kept gaining new followers, with my recipes and culinary photos earning widespread praise. As the face of a kitchenware brand, every time I posted a review on social media, the products sold out instantly.
Connecting with so many people through cooking, work is truly enjoyable.
While trying new recipes in the kitchen, I thought about this. At work, I succeeded in various projects through collaboration with colleagues, regaining my former confidence and vitality. My days are filled with professional work by day and passion for my social media activities by night. In these fulfilling days, I truly felt that this is where I belong, finding both work and cooking enjoyable. On weekends, I enjoyed single life with my best friend Samantha. We tried new restaurants and planned trips together. Samantha, thank you. It's because of you that I can walk towards such a positive future. Expressing my gratitude, Samantha replied with a smile, I'm also happy because you're with me, Isabella. Let's continue to enjoy many fun things together. Overcoming past hardships and carving out a new life with my own strength brought me deep satisfaction. And I realized that this moment is the most brilliant in my life. I've always thought about it, you know. Being a housewife is like being unemployed. You just do the housework and you don't have to worry about living expenses. It's really an easy job. If I were a woman, I'd definitely choose to be a housewife. A tipsy Harry said this with a carefree, innocent laugh. Today, we were visiting my in-laws' house and having a family dinner with relatives gathered around. Only the relatives near Harry and I heard these words, and it was clear turned them off. However, I simply stated the facts to my husband calmly. Harry, you do know I've already gotten a job offer, right? So, I'm not a housewife. No way, a woman like you getting a job? Don't underestimate the real world. But hey, it was funny, so I'll let it slide. Harry's chuckle turned into a roar of laughter, but I remained calm. He didn't know, but I did. It was he who underestimated the real world. Hey, Harry, what's up? You seem to be having a great time. Something funny happen? Or is it because Mary has been doing so well with the housework, you just got a bit carried away? Harry's laughter was so loud that it must have reached my in-laws sitting at a distance. They seemed interested in our conversation and came closer, making Harry whisper in a panic.
Yeah, that's right. Just like Mom said, Mary's been doing great with the housework.
It seemed like Harry was trying to ride along with his mother's words, trying to brush it off with some casual remarks. But I wasn't going to let the conversation just drift away like that. So, I decided to interrupt and express my gratitude to my in-laws.
Mom, Dad, thank you so much for today.
No, managing the house and also choosing to work outside, that's really impressive. Balancing both must be tough. But Mary is trying to take on a challenge. That's why we wanted to support her as much as we could.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad to hear you say that. Huh? What do you mean Mary is working outside? In fact, today's dinner also serves as a celebration for my new job. My husband, Harry, had a puzzled look on his face, unaware of this development. Huh? Harry didn't know about Mary's job offer? We thought Harry would naturally know, so we didn't tell him about the job celebration. My in-laws said this, tilting their heads at my husband's reaction. No way, Mary's working? Why would she need to do that? With my salary, we're not struggling to live. I'm getting recognized by my boss, especially the CEO, and promotion is a sure thing. My salary is going to increase even more, you know? Harry said this with a boastful air, turning into somewhat of a braggart. Despite my in-laws saying it was a celebration for my employment, he wouldn't believe it. True, Harry is a so-called elite employee at a major corporation, thriving in his role. While it might be true that he's valued by the CEO, knowing his true character would surely change that evaluation. Harry, you're getting too carried away. It's good to have confidence in your job, but try to be a bit more humble. But indeed, maybe Mary doesn't need to work. Why did you suddenly decide to get a job? My in-laws said this, admonishing my overly confident husband yet also wondering why I decided to work. Faced with their inquiry, I decided to reveal a fact unknown to my in-laws. It's because we don't have any savings. If I don't work, our living situation will become difficult. What? No savings? Why? No way, Mary, what are you talking about? Harry said he's working at a big company with a high income. There shouldn't be an issue of having no savings, right? My in-laws said this, tilting their heads in disbelief. I guess it's hard to believe, huh? Normally, what my in-laws are saying would be right. With my husband's income exceeding $200,000, it's unthinkable not to have savings. But that's if you're thinking normally. While listening to the exchange between me and my in-laws, my husband, Harry, had a smug smile on his face. Then, he started speaking with a mocking attitude. Oh girl, what are you even talking about here? Aren't Mom and Dad just disappointed? Mary, are you drunk or what? I'm not drunk, you know? Really? If you're saying that sober, then that's even more concerning. Harry said, bursting into laughter. Even for my in-laws, the situation was too outlandish to believe just by words. So, maybe it's understandable they'd think this way at this point. But he won't be laughing for long. I can prove we don't have any savings. Look at this. Saying that, I showed something to my husband and in-laws. Is this a bank balance? Did you prepare this just for now? But indeed, looking at this will tell us whether what Mary is saying is true or not. Just as my in-laws mentioned, what I showed them was the bank balance for our joint account. Both of them looked closely at the balance, but immediately after, their expressions turned to shock, their mouths gaping open in astonishment. What's this about? Only $600 in savings? Harry, what's the meaning of this? Explain yourself. I can't believe what Mary was saying is actually true. Both turned to Harry with stern faces, pressing him for answers. Finally, a hint of panic appeared on Harry, who had been all too complacent until now. Hey, Mary, why do you even show the bank balance on you? No, wait, Mom, Dad, this isn't what it looks like. Harry was surprised that I show the bank balance, but more than that, he seemed desperate to explain away the lack of savings to his parents. It's because of work-related expenses. I needed the money for that. Even so? Yes, that's right, isn't it? Harry tried to smooth talk his way into their understanding, but my in-laws were clearly not convinced, exchanging doubtful glances. Come on. Let's drop this topic. I need money for work-related things, so it'd really help if Mary could work too. That settles it, right? He suddenly pretended to accept my job as if it made all the sense in the world, trying to forcefully change the subject, but it was a no-go. Because I already knew everything. We can't end this conversation with such a lie. Hey, what are you planning to say now? I was about to expose Harry's secret. Sensing the dangerous air, Harry appeared extremely flustered upon hearing my words.
Our lack of savings is because you've been spending money on another woman, isn't it? I know you've been cheating.
What did you say? Harry was taken aback by the sudden revelation, panicking but not immediately believing my words. He slowly began to speak after a pause. Hey, what are you talking about? If you're gonna lie, at least come up with a better one. There's no way I'd cheat. This isn't funny at all. With that, Harry completely denied the affair, dismissing it as nonsense. The surprise of the affair allegation and their unwillingness to believe their son could do such a thing mixed together, leaving my in-laws visibly confused. Why are we suddenly talking about an affair? Isn't this rather disrespectful to Harry? Do you have any proof? I guess words alone aren't enough to convince them. It's natural for my in-laws to want to disbelieve. As my mother-in-law said, it seems necessary to present some evidence. So, I took out my phone to show them a particular image. I do have proof. Please, look at this image. Who is this woman? Mom, do you know her? No, I don't know her. Why is he entering such an expensive place with this person? The image showed an unfamiliar woman and Harry entering upscale brand stores and restaurants together. After a surprised reaction, Harry's expression quickly turned to anger, and he raised his voice.
Hey, why do you have this picture? Are you into some creepy hobby of taking secret photos? That's messed up.
Harry cheating? That's ridiculous. But after seeing this picture, it's hard to deny, isn't it? Upon seeing the evidence of the affair, my in-laws were clearly troubled and shocked that it might be true. Sensing the situation was turning dire, Harry seemed to think. It was better to convince his parents rather than blame me and turn to them to start explaining. Well, yes. The woman in the picture is a colleague from work. She wanted to surprise her boyfriend with a gift, so I, representing the guys, accompanied her to give advice. Is that really true? If that's the case, it's a relief it was just a misunderstanding with Mary, right? Relief? Hardly. She might accuse me of the same thing again in the future. I think I need to make things clear to Mary to prevent that. Harry was trying to win over his parents with plausible reasons. Naturally, his parents would want to believe their own son's words. So, it wouldn't be surprising if they were persuaded by him. However, as much as I hate to say it, I knew the story Harry just told was a lie. Harry, there's no use saying that. I know that woman isn't your colleague but an employee from a client company.
What are you arbitrarily deciding and talking about? Really, stop it.
As expected, Harry wouldn't admit it. He claimed I was just making assumptions, which seemed to sway my in-laws. But what I'm about to say should convince them. Ready to reveal more, I slowly began to speak. I'm sorry to make you sad, Mom and Dad. But I'm not just making assumptions or jumping to conclusions. Because I've found out who Harry's affair partner is. Her name is Natalie, right? What, how do you know about Natalie? When I mentioned the affair partner's name, Harry was visibly shocked. My in-laws reacted similarly. There was a reason I knew the name of the other woman. Because the company that offered me a job is where Natalie works. Huh? What are you saying? That means you're working with a client of my company? That's a huge lie, no way I'd believe that. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. I'm just stating the facts. Harry tried to cover up by saying the affair partner was a colleague at his company, but in reality, she was going to be my colleague. That's how I knew he was lying. Hey Harry, what's this about? Were you lying to us after all?
Lying means you were trying to hide the affair, right? What's it gonna be, Harry? Answer me.
No, wait a second. There's also a chance that Mary is lying, isn't there? Right after, I showed Harry a piece of paper. It was the job offer letter. Even my husband, who had belittled the idea that I could get a job, finally seemed to believe and fell silent. My in-laws looked at Harry with stern faces, and panic was evident on his face. By the way, I haven't revealed my identity to Natalie yet. So, she shouldn't realize I'm Harry's wife. Are you serious? You really got a job at the same company as Natalie? What's your aim in all this? I intended to put silent pressure on Natalie. Plus, I wanted to see the situation for myself. There was a chance that Natalie was also being deceived by you. What do you mean I deceived Natalie? I mean, you might have pretended to be single while dating Natalie. After all, Harry, you never treated me as your wife. Harry must have assumed I was incapable of taking any action. But that was a huge mistake. I was already prepared. Prepared to expose all of Harry's true nature to my in-laws right here and now. Harry, sensing my determination, grew increasingly pale. Not treated as a wife? Mary, what does that mean? It means I've been mistreated by Harry all along.
Hey, stop saying things that could cause misunderstandings.
It's not a misunderstanding. You've called me an unemployed leech, living off my support, and mocked me for being a housewife as if I'm just freeloading. As I clarified the reasons, my in-laws looked at Harry with disbelief. Glancing around, I noticed several relatives nearby silently nodding. Earlier, Harry had said this in front of me and those relatives. I've always thought about it, you know. Being a housewife is like being unemployed. You just do the housework and you don't have to worry about living expenses. It's really an easy job. If I were a woman, I'd definitely choose to be a housewife. Being able to say such malicious words with a laugh is just like my husband. The relatives understood that it wouldn't be surprising if such a husband was mistreating his wife. Harry works outside, but I wasn't. So, he always acted like he was superior. Whenever I had any complaints, he'd immediately threaten me with divorce.
That's because you wouldn't do as I say.
I had tried to take care of the house in my own way, but my husband refused to acknowledge it, imposing his views on me and continually telling me, "You're no good." He knew I couldn't talk back. I had failed at getting a job several times before, and I already had low self-esteem. Harry, you took advantage of that, didn't you? Being told I was no good by Harry made my self-esteem even lower. That's why I ended up just doing whatever you wanted. I wasn't trying to make you do whatever I say. It's just how things ended up, wasn't it? My husband was desperate to find an excuse, but the more he tried, the more suspicious my in-laws became of him. Maybe it was my weakness that made me compliant. But the problem was when you started mistreating me. What are you trying to say? The period when you started going out more, using our savings, and stopped contributing money to the household almost coincided with when you began mistreating me. That's why I started suspecting your affair. When I said this, my husband's face turned pale, and he had no comeback. It seemed he was too preoccupied with his affair to consider anything else, but his actions were enough to raise suspicions of infidelity. Everyone, please listen. Earlier, Harry laughed and told me not to underestimate society. But who's really underestimating society here? No. Shameful as it is to say, it seems to be Harry. Yes, that's right. My question was met with nods from my in-laws, and voices of agreement rose from the other relatives. What, everyone, why? It's not decided yet that I'm in the wrong, is it? Mary could be making all this up. It's no use saying that. Just wait a moment. I'll get something that can definitively prove your affair. After telling my husband this, I briefly left the room to retrieve something. Then, I confronted my husband with it in front of my in-laws and the relatives. This is evidence of your affair that I got by hiring a detective. Can you still find an excuse for this? When did you hire someone to investigate? I can't believe you went that far. Among the evidence was not just the photos I showed earlier on my phone, but the clincher was a photo of the two entering a hotel. Moreover, there were audio recordings as well. I had a great time today. I'm looking forward to our next date. It would be nice if we could spend the entire night together next time. Oh, Harry, you're such a tease. Such statements wouldn't come from someone not having an affair. This was more than enough evidence to confirm the affair. Harry, you really are something. Truly despicable. His own parents had to say such things, showing just how vile my husband's true nature was. The other relatives also cast cold looks towards my husband. With such photos lined up, it was a natural reaction. Hey, Harry, I can't bear being mistreated and cheated on any longer. I'm going back to my parents' house. I'll send the divorce papers later, so be prepared. Saying that, I turned my back on my husband and was about to leave. That's when it happened.
Damn it, wait. Getting all high and mighty, I won't forgive you.
Suddenly, my husband lost his temper, raised his voice, and lunged at me.
No, stop.
I felt endangered and thought I had to escape, but my in-laws and the relatives were quicker to react.
Mary, watch out! Harry, enough is enough.
Mary, are you okay? Thankfully, my in-laws and the relatives managed to restrain my husband. I'm fine, thank you all. It was a close call, but I was really grateful everyone was there for me. After confirming I was safe, my in-laws once again turned to my husband and began to speak. Harry, your thinking is wrong. Mary is by no means an unemployed. You've been able to work without any trouble because Mary has been supporting you, right? I think it's amazing that you can work hard and earn money outside. But it's because Mary properly takes care of the house that you can concentrate on your work with peace of mind. And just because you earned the money, it doesn't mean you can spend it any way you like. Saying this, they tried to gently admonish Harry without provoking him. However, Harry was unreachable by his parents' words. Ugh, I don't want to hear a lecture. She's a housewife, so of course, she should take care of the house. Why does it sound like Mary's doing something amazing?
You still don't get it, do you? Mary is not your property. Dad's right. You should apologize to Mary right now for thinking it's only natural for her to do all the housework.
My in-laws clearly rejected Harry's way of thinking and told him to apologize to me. Yet, Harry remained unrepentant and scoffed at their words. Shut up, you mediocrities. I'm more capable than anyone. If you have a complaint, earn more than me before you speak. You lot have no right to lecture me.
What did you say?
To everyone's astonishment, Harry began to look down on his parents and the relatives. It's true that among those present, Harry was earning the most. But is flaunting that and demeaning others really what a truly capable person does? I'm securing new contracts left and right, highly recognized by my boss, especially by the CEO. At this rate, I'm on the fast track to promotion. In Harry's mind, a person who can work equals a superior person. But a truly superior person wouldn't demean others like this. Disappointed by Harry's failure to see his mistake, I was overtaken by laughter at the absurdity of his ignorance. I ended up laughing. What? Why are you suddenly laughing? What's so funny? I'm sorry. It seems you're quite confident in your current job, but I know things aren't going as well as you think. Huh? What do you mean? The father of Natalie, with whom you're having an affair, is the CEO of your company. What? You're kidding, right? But Natalie never mentioned anything like that. That's because Natalie wants to succeed on her own without relying on her father's influence. Maybe it was too early for her to tell you, don't you think? If that's true, we're in big trouble. If the CEO finds out about this. Harry mumbled, starting to panic. Seeing his reaction, I was convinced he knew nothing. I had already made contact with Natalie during the investigation of the affair. That's when I heard the story from her. Unfortunately, it's impossible to keep this from the CEO. I'll be reporting your affair with Natalie. I told him this and was about to leave for my parents' house once and for all. Mary, please. Don't tell the CEO. I was wrong. I had no idea Natalie was the CEO's daughter. I must have been deceived by Natalie. I'm a victim too, right? Even if you didn't know, the fact that you mistreated me and had an affair doesn't change. No matter what you say, I won't forgive you. Come on, Dad, Mom, everyone, convince Mary. If you all talk to her, I'm sure she'll understand. As I firmly rejected him, my husband pleaded for help from his parents and the relatives. But there was no one willing to help him.
I don't know anything about it. It's your own fault. I'm cutting ties with you. I will never help you.
I feel the same as Dad. When my in-laws declared their disownment, the other relatives also surrounded my husband, glaring at him as if to say they felt the same. Overwhelmed by their intensity, my husband finally fell silent. Afterward, I filed for divorce, then returned to my parents' home to live peacefully. Amidst all this, my in-laws came over to apologize once again. Mary, we're really sorry about what happened last time. Our foolish son has caused you so much trouble.
No matter how many times we apologize to you, Mary, it won't be enough.
Please, both of you, lift your heads. The one at fault is Harry, not you two. It helps us to hear you say that. Actually, we came today because we have something important to tell you. Something important? Yes, it's about. My father-in-law proceeded to tell me about my ex-husband's current situation. Because I had reported the affair to his company, he lost the trust of the CEO, the story spread throughout the company, and everyone began to look at him with disdain. It seems my ex-husband's performance at work was indeed genuine, which is probably why the betrayal hit the CEO and employees so hard. If he had just stayed focused and behaved, he could have surely made it to the top, as he always said. Instead of climbing the ladder, he's pushed himself into a position where he had to resign voluntarily. It's truly a pathetic story. So that's what happened. It's self-inflicted, but it's such a waste for Harry. If he wanted, my ex-husband could find a job and start over. However, unless he regrets, reflects, and changes his mindset, he's likely to repeat the same mistakes. Meanwhile, I had a chance to speak with Natalie again, and she said, I heard from my father. Harry was your husband, wasn't he? I'm truly sorry for having a relationship with him without knowing. If Harry was pretending to be single, it's not your fault for not realizing. Please, don't apologize. After she apologized, I decided to forgive Natalie. She also told me she had lost trust in my ex-husband and had broken up with him. Disowned by his parents and relatives and abandoned by Natalie, my ex-husband had become completely isolated. This led to a mental breakdown, leaving him unemployed. This was a perfect example of poetic justice. After some time enjoying my solitude, I eventually remarried. My new husband actively helps with housework and we live a life of mutual respect. Working together, we're sure to lead a happy life. I felt a strong sense of assurance in this belief. Get lost, you defective infertile product. I'm divorcing you, you ugly hag. With sneers of utter disdain, these two, my husband Theodore and my best friend Chloe, directed such cruel smiles at me. I had been deceived by them for so long. Behind my back, they looked down on me and did atrocious things. Despite my trust in them, their betrayal was too harsh. They must think of me as a trivial nobody. Enjoying mocking me, thinking of me as a toy that can be broken. But I am a human being with feelings. It's essential they understand that. Clenching my resolve, I took a deep breath. My name is Lily Swift, a 37-year-old homemaker. Coming from an average family, I was born between my gentle mother, similar to me, and my father who always led her. I have a brother who is 4 years older and significantly smarter than me. I've always been somewhat spacey and not great at studying.
Lily is kind to others, isn't she? I'm not so much. Is that so? I think you're kind. That's because you're my family. Despite struggling with studies, Lily, you have many good qualities.
He comforted me when I couldn't score well on tests. Our parents raised us without favoritism, allowing me to grow up without feeling complex about my intelligence, and I proceeded through high school. Not being university material, I started working at a local company after graduation. That's where I met Theodore.
Being with you settles my heart.
At that time, lacking romantic opportunities, I attended a speed dating party. Theodore and I met there, hit it off, and started dating when I was 28. Our relationship smoothly progressed, and we married when I was 29.
I will definitely make you happy.
Theodore's proposal had me over the moon, convinced of our happy future together. But then,
you're really stupid, aren't you? Can't you think and do this much on your own?
He'd retort to my simple requests. Lately, Theodore had been belittling me, calling me stupid at every opportunity. True, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. But did he need to speak to me like that just because I asked for a little help around the house since I'm busy with work?
As if your job is anything significant. Or maybe it's you're working outside, that's why we can't have kids.
Moreover, lately, Theodore had been blaming me for our inability to conceive. If it were something I could achieve through effort alone, I'd do anything. It's clear that the lack of children is due to Theodore's lack of cooperation. My only outlet was venting to my best friend Chloe.
Things haven't been great with my husband lately. You're too kind, Lily. Maybe he's taking your kindness for granted?
Chloe has been my friend since high school. Unlike me, Chloe is assertive, quite beautiful, and I often wonder why someone like her would be friends with me. Speaking of wonders, it's also curious that Chloe, despite having a desire to marry, is still single. She's beautiful, a great cook, considerate, and seems to have no flaws. Well, marriage is a personal choice, and it's not my place to comment.
Thanks for listening, Chloe. I'm blessed to have a good friend like you. Oh, what a sweet thing to say.
Joking and laughing with Chloe like this saves my heart. One day.
How about we go on a trip for our anniversary this year? I'm busy, so Lily, could you plan it?
Theodore suddenly suggested that. We used to travel to various places early in our marriage, but I haven't gone out with Theodore for years.
What's gotten into him?
Despite wondering this, I felt excited planning a trip after such a long time. Even though Theodore often mocks me, I don't dislike him. I want to go out with him and spend enjoyable time together as much as possible. With that thought, I meticulously planned our anniversary trip.
This inn looks nice. But it's fully booked.
The inn I found after much searching, thinking Theodore would like it, was fully booked, with a waiting list for cancellations. On a whim, I applied for a cancellation waitlist and a few days later, got a call that a reservation had become available.
Yay! This will make for the best anniversary.
I was so happy at the moment, I almost started humming. The inn not only has a good atmosphere but is also renowned for its cuisine. It had been featured on national TV, and my expectations were sky high. A week before the trip, I was in such a good mood, smiling and laughing during dinner when Theodore asked with a puzzled voice.
You've been in a good mood lately. Did something nice happen?
I realized then I hadn't told Theodore about securing the inn and, still smiling, I opened my mouth.
Actually, for our anniversary trip, I found a nice place. It's an inn you'd like. The food is supposed to be delicious, so I'm really looking forward to it.
However, Theodore frowned deeply at this.
Anniversary trip? What are you talking about? Why are you planning something like that on your own? I've got plans on our anniversary.
I was bewildered by Theodore's unexpected words.
But you were the one who suggested we go on a trip. I never said that. Don't blame me for your misunderstanding,
he retorted, visibly irritated. Despite still eating, he put down his fork, indicating he was done.
Make sure you pay the cancellation fee,
he said before retreating to his room. I could only stare at Theodore's back in disbelief. He had completely forgotten what he said and pinned his forgetfulness on me. Moreover, to schedule something else on our important anniversary. It's one thing if it was for work, but that day was a holiday. Theodore's actions were too cruel, leaving me saddened and looking down.
I've lost my appetite.
Eventually, I too left my meal untouched and just went to bed that night. And then, on our anniversary, Theodore woke up earlier than me and started getting ready to go out. Without telling me where he was going, he left the house in a good mood. In the end, I spent our anniversary alone. It was the first time I felt so miserable on our anniversary. Since graduating from high school, I've been working at a certain local company. On the other hand, Theodore has been working at the company his parents run. He's supposed to take over his parents' company eventually, but I've heard that the business hasn't been doing well lately. We're in a situation where we can't live without relying on my earnings. However, my in-laws don't seem to care about that and sometimes call me over to complain about me. It's hard to refuse since it's usually framed as an invitation for tea, so I end up going every time.
I really want to see my grandchild soon, Lily. You need to try harder. Instead of working outside, you should stay at home and support Theodore. Then, you'll have children in no time,
said my mother-in-law Kinsley, to which I've become quite accustomed. If I were to say that I work because Theodore's earnings are insufficient, my mother-in-law would fly into a rage. In fact, when I once tried to mention something along those lines, she berated me as if she was about to hit me. My mother-in-law has a rather fierce personality and is quick to resort to violence. So, it's best to stay silent in such situations.
I just don't understand what young people are thinking these days. Do they only care about themselves? In my day, it was natural to support one's husband.
Glancing at my mother-in-law, I noticed a hint of pleasure on her face. Seeing me silently listening to her lecture seemed to satisfy her. Like Theodore, she seems to enjoy lecturing me about how I am a failure. Then basks in self-satisfaction, thinking she is better than me. They probably do this unconsciously, using me to boost themselves. Pointing it out would only anger them, so I kept my dissatisfaction to myself and silently listened to my mother-in-law's lecture today as well. I came home exhausted from being called out by my mother-in-law, and Theodore added insult to injury.
You're late. Where have you been? Where's my dinner? I was called by your mother today, so I bought some takeout. Huh? You're always cutting corners, aren't you?
I almost retorted that it was his mother's fault, but I swallowed my words in a hurry. Days like this make me want to see my best friend Chloe.
It's been a while. Shall we have tea sometime?
Lately, Chloe has been busy too, and we haven't been able to meet for a while. Soon after, I received a message from Chloe, but again, she couldn't meet, which made me feel dejected. It seems she's been feeling unwell recently.
Well, if she's not feeling well, it can't be helped.
Looking forward to the day I can meet Chloe again helps me get through these gloomy days. A few months later, I haven't been called out by my mother-in-law recently, which made my days a bit more peaceful, but Theodore remains the same. He comes home late and whenever he opens his mouth, it's just to insult me. Just when I thought I was reaching my limit, I received a message from Chloe wanting to meet after a long time. However, when I went to the meeting place with Chloe, an unexpected turn of events was waiting for me.
Chloe, you're pregnant!
There she was, Chloe with a big belly. She looked at me with a smile as I gaped in surprise.
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. So, that's why you said you were feeling unwell and couldn't meet.
Despite my surprise, I sat down across from Chloe and celebrated her pregnancy with a smile.
Congratulations, Chloe! She's going to be a beauty just like you. Oh, do you not know the gender yet? Lily, you're getting ahead of yourself. By the way, aren't you going to ask who the father is?
Indeed, I was curious. Chloe was unmarried and I hadn't heard about her having a boyfriend. However, I hesitated to ask such a personal question and had decided not to inquire. When I told her this, Chloe laughed and replied,
I'll introduce you to him next time. Really? I'm looking forward to it.
Then, a week later, at a cafe Chloe had called me to, I was greeted by Chloe and Theodore.
What's going on?
As I stood there dumbfounded, the two of them couldn't hold back and burst into laughter. Then, while laughing, they told me something unbelievable.
Can't believe you really didn't notice. Theodore and I have been dating since right after you two got married. When I was introduced as your best friend at the wedding, I fell for her at first sight. Unlike you, who's ugly and dumb, Chloe is beautiful and smart. I've been planning to divorce you and marry Chloe,
Theodore said while handing me a piece of paper. It was a filled-out divorce form. Inferior infertile product, disappear. Chloe, with a twisted smile I had never seen before, proudly stroked her bulging belly.
I'm divorcing the ugly hag.
Theodore put his arm around Chloe and looked down at me with a smug smile. Had I been deceived by them all this time? Both had been mocking me behind my back. Despite my trust in them, it was a betrayal too cruel to accept. They probably thought of me as a trivial nobody, enjoying mocking me, considering me as a toy that could be broken. But I am a human being with emotions. They need to understand that. With a firm resolve, I took a deep breath. Fine, let's get divorced. I picked up the pen and, without hesitation, signed the divorce papers.
I don't have the seal with me, so I'll take it home and submit it myself. Is that okay?
Their faces went blank, perhaps not expecting my response. But soon, they regained their composure and sneered at me again.
Right, let's leave the troublesome stuff to her. We're going to buy wedding rings after this and then visit your parents to greet them.
Yeah, make sure you submit it, okay?
And move out of my house as soon as possible.
Understood. With that, I quickly left the place. Theodore and Chloe watched me go, sneering unpleasantly. The next day, after the shocking revelation, I was packing my things at the apartment Theodore and I had been living in. Theodore had claimed it was his place, but it was just a modest apartment. Not too expensive due to its small size. Theodore hadn't come home since then. After getting home, I stamped the divorce papers and submitted them to the city hall. They were accepted without issue, and Theodore and I were officially strangers to each other. Since I didn't have many belongings, I thought I could finish packing and leave by the end of the day. However, I nearly jumped out of my skin when the door suddenly burst open with a loud noise. Turning around, I saw Theodore, pale as a ghost.
What's wrong?
I asked, noticing his unusual demeanor. He rushed over to me and grabbed my shoulders, shouting,
Why didn't you tell me? Your brother was trying to buy out our company, wasn't he? But since we got divorced, the acquisition talks were halted, and now our company is in jeopardy.
Ah, so that's what this is about. Indeed, my brother had been preparing to buy out my in-laws' company for some time. My smart brother went to a prestigious university and quickly started his own company after working for a major corporation. His company had grown significantly due to his intelligence. In the industry, he's regarded as a rising star. One day, I mentioned to him that my in-laws' company was struggling. And he made an incredible offer.
Then, for your sake, our company will buy it out.
He intended to help manage the company by acquiring it. Since that proposal, my in-laws stopped calling me over to complain, likely fearing that any mistreatment could jeopardize the acquisition. However, they never directly thanked me or acknowledged my help. Probably too proud to lower their heads to their daughter-in-law. I thought my in-laws had informed Theodore about this. But it seems they hadn't. Whether they forgot, assumed I would tell him, or couldn't accept that I, whom they had looked down upon, was actually helping. Regardless of the reason, their failure to inform Theodore led to this situation.
After taking Chloe to meet my parents to announce our divorce and her pregnancy, my mom went berserk.
According to him, they went straight to his parents' house after buying engagement rings to announce their marriage plans. But instead of celebrating, the sight of Chloe's pregnant belly made my mother-in-law mutter in a trembling voice.
Are you the cause? What? No. What are you doing?
She accused Chloe of being at fault and attempted to assault her. But Theodore managed to restrain her. My mother-in-law's frenzy had a reason. After submitting the divorce papers, I had called my brother to inform him. And he decided to halt the acquisition of my in-laws' company.
I tried to help because he was your husband's parent, but now that we're divorced, there's no reason to. Buying that company wouldn't bring any significant benefit to us. It would only cost time, effort, and money for restructuring.
My brother said over the phone, probably immediately notifying my in-laws that the acquisition was off. And so, the two unsuspecting people arrived at my in-laws' house, leading to my mother-in-law's meltdown. The reason I hadn't told Theodore about my brother was that Theodore had been coming home late recently, and we hadn't had the chance to talk properly. Probably, he was late because he was meeting with Chloe. Even when I tried to find the time to talk, Theodore hardly listened. Seeing his attitude, I figured the in-laws would tell him, so I gave up on the conversation. In any case, Theodore has only himself to blame for this situation. That's what happened. I finished explaining, and Theodore let go of my shoulder, slumping down powerlessly.
No way, was our company in that much trouble? Wait, you didn't know about the company your parents run?
I asked incredulously. Theodore replied flusteredly.
I'm mostly out on sales visits, so I'm not much at the company.
That's no excuse. Normally, you would know.
Or were you just playing around under the guise of sales visits?
Ah, I see.
Using the time for sales visits to cheat with Chloe, right?
Theodore awkwardly averted his eyes at my accusation. Hitting the mark. I'm disgusted. I believed in you, you know?
I thought, despite the company's troubles, you, as the future CEO, would be working hard to support it. I thought your late nights were because of your dedication to work. I trusted you, and you betrayed me.
My cold voice made Theodore go pale. Only now did he seem to grasp the gravity of his situation.
I'm sorry. I didn't know anything. I had no idea you were trying to save our company. I'm truly sorry.
Theodore was apologizing and sweating profusely. Can you move?
You're in the way of my packing.
I ignored Theodore and resumed packing. I had never been this cold to Theodore before. So he was probably shocked. He looked up at me, disbelief written all over his face. What's with that look?
What? But I'm apologizing here. Why are you being so cold?
Theodore muttered in disbelief. I sighed heavily with exasperation.
So, what? You think a mere apology is enough to heal the heart you betrayed? If that's what you think, your apology is cheap.
I stopped packing for a moment and turned to face Theodore directly.
Let me make it clear, since you still don't seem to understand. No matter how much you apologize, my brother will abandon your parents' company. Whatever happens to it, neither my brother nor I care. And your apology means nothing to me. No matter how much you beg, I won't listen to you. But we were married. You know, have you forgotten what you did yesterday? The divorce papers have already been submitted. You and I are strangers now. There's no reason for me to help someone who betrayed and hurt me by teaming up with his affair partner.
My absolute rejection made Theodore tremble. I watched him with a detached gaze.
That's the situation, so give it up. You'll have to figure out the company on your own.
I thought Theodore would understand by now. But he reacted in an unexpected way.
You son of a, sitting there all high and mighty. Ah! What are you doing? Don't you dare look down on me, you slow-witted idiot.
Incredibly, Theodore grabbed a magazine that was lying around and threw it at me.
Stop it!
Despite my plea, Theodore continued to throw things at me. Then, he even grabbed a vase from the table, attempting to hurl it my way. If that had hit me, it would have been more than just an injury. Frozen in fear, all I could do was protect my head with my arms. It wasn't me who stopped him, but the arms of a third party.
What are you doing to my sister?
It was my brother who stopped Theodore. His grip on Theodore seemed very strong, causing Theodore to tremble. And my brother's face was red with anger. My brother being here wasn't a coincidence. He was supposed to come over to help me pack today. Probably, he rang the intercom while Theodore and I were arguing. Finding no response, he entered and found Theodore in a rage.
My brother-in-law! I have no memory of being called your brother.
My brother snapped back. Theodore's face turned pale again at my brother's sudden appearance. This was a situation he couldn't talk his way out of.
You were trying to harm not just my sister's heart, but her body as well? I'll never forgive you.
My brother's intimidating presence made Theodore nearly cry. My brother then roughly shook off Theodore's arm. Theodore collapsed miserably to the floor. And when he finally managed to stand up, still pale, he declared,
Enough. I've had it. I don't need any of you. I'll turn my company around myself.
At Theodore's declaration, my brother slightly frowned.
Oh? That's some courage. But what can you do when you've hardly been involved in running the company? When I went to discuss the acquisition, you never once showed up to the meetings. Running a business isn't a game.
My brother's sharp words made Theodore falter for a moment. However, Theodore quickly glared back at my brother and boasted somewhat proudly.
I have a new wife. And in her belly, my precious child. Not some ugly, dumb woman like your sister. A beautiful, smart, and absolutely wonderful wife. For my family, I'll overcome any adversity.
Theodore puffed out his chest as he said this. My brother was on the verge of exploding in anger at the insult to me, but instead, I spoke up.
Sorry to burst your bubble while you're soaking in your own words. But your beloved new wife is cheating on you. What?
Theodore, who had been smug a moment ago, let out a dumbfounded sound. He clearly didn't know, and I sighed softly. I heard it from a mutual friend of Chloe and me. After filing the divorce papers, not only did I contact my brother, but I also reached out to mutual friends of Chloe and me. Some of them, whom I've kept in touch with since high school, I thought it best to inform them just in case. One of them shocked me with the truth.
She was bragging about having several men behind your back. She even boasted about you as one of them. Lately, all she talks about is how she's going to be a CEO's wife, making everyone so fed up they decided to cut ties with her.
Knowing Chloe had stolen my husband, our friends decided to cut her off. Then they sent me proof of her multiple affairs, including photos Chloe had bragged about, via a messaging app. And here's the photo. When I showed Theodore the screen of my smartphone, his face gradually turned into an expression of despair. The photo I showed him depicted Chloe, smiling and cozying up to a man I didn't recognize. I had always wondered why Chloe never got married. Now, I felt like I finally understood the reason. Chloe was too busy playing around with multiple men to even think about settling down. Her decision to marry Theodore was probably because he was set to become the CEO of his family's company. After all, she has always been fond of money. Since becoming an adult, she often splurged, and I remember several instances where she borrowed money from other friends. Theodore's company was in dire straits, but I hadn't told Chloe about it, and Theodore himself was unaware of the company's precarious situation. Without knowing anything, Chloe stole Theodore from me, dreaming of becoming a CEO's wife.
Hey, are you sure the child in Chloe's belly is actually yours?
Given her affairs with multiple men, the chances of Theodore being the father were slim. When confronted with this reality, Theodore collapsed and started sobbing uncontrollably.
I trusted her. She betrayed me.
My brother and I looked down on the crying Theodore with cold eyes.
You have the nerve to say that in front of my sister, who you betrayed first. She trusted you.
Theodore seemed shocked by his words, as if he only now understood how I felt being betrayed.
Lily, I'm sorry, can we talk again?
However, I firmly rejected Theodore's plea.
What is there left to talk about? Absolutely not. After yesterday's incident, I've grown to dislike seeing your face or hearing your voice. Got it? So, don't open your mouth again. It's nothing but unpleasant for me.
Theodore could only look at me, tears streaming down his face, utterly stunned. Later, my brother and I finished packing and went back to our parents' house. While my parents were concerned for me, being able to completely reject Theodore made me feel considerably relieved. As for Theodore and Chloe, when Theodore confronted her about the affair, she insisted that the baby was definitely his. However, the baby born was a black-haired, black-eyed infant, not even remotely resembling Theodore or a pure American. Furious, Theodore broke up with Chloe.
Fine. Your company is in serious trouble anyway, right? I was only interested in your status. If I can't be a CEO's wife, then you're useless to me.
She retorted, and they ended their relationship in a massive argument. It seems Chloe never truly loved Theodore. After the divorce, Theodore sent me several messages asking to reconcile, but I ignored them. However, his constant pestering led me to finally respond.
If you keep bothering me, I'll consult a lawyer.
After that, his messages stopped abruptly. Incidentally, I've already consulted a lawyer for a different matter. That matter is a claim for damages against Theodore and Chloe for their affair. I've gathered solid evidence of the affair, and my lawyer has assured me that we can definitely claim damages. After that, I filed a claim for damages against both of them. Theodore, whose company's management has become seriously unstable and without my financial support, seems to be struggling quite a bit. He tried to fuss with the lawyer about not being able to pay, but after being threatened with a lawsuit, he somehow managed to come up with the money. Chloe, who had been living a lavish lifestyle, almost drained her savings to pay the damages. She sought help from mutual friends, but they all refused and blocked her contact, as they told me. Incidentally, I also received a message from Chloe begging for forgiveness.
I truly regret what happened. The child wasn't his. It was just a moment of folly with him. I'm out of money, and both my child and I are suffering. So, could you please return even a little of the damages paid?
To such Chloe, I responded mercilessly.
Do you know the word shameless? That word describes you right now. How dare you contact me with such a request? I won't return the damages. Your current hardship is entirely your own doing.
After replying, I blocked Chloe's contact. Both Chloe and Theodore, without anyone to help them, are likely leading a very pressed life. According to my brother, my in-laws' company is on the verge of bankruptcy. He told me that it's likely to go bankrupt within the year. After divorcing Theodore, I returned to live with my family for a while, healing my wounded heart. Thanks to my brother and parents, I've fully recovered and now live alone near my workplace. Theodore and Chloe no longer have the energy or money to chase after me, but just in case, my new apartment has 24-hour security, ensuring my safety. My brother often visits, worried about me, so I should be fine even in an emergency. To think, I really can't judge character. I mused. I never imagined Theodore and Chloe were having an affair. I trusted them completely. Being betrayed by the two closest people hurt me deeply, but now fully recovered, I'm more worried about my poor judgment than angry at them. Your kindness is your strength. It's necessary to doubt people sometimes, but don't let it extinguish your best quality. My brother advises. Still, I wonder if I should be more skeptical of people. Well, for now, I'm getting by without issues, and maybe Theodore and Chloe were just exceptions. Freed from the worst husband and in-laws, I live a carefree single life. I'm open to remarrying if the chance arises, but for now, I'm too busy with my own life. Even if I never remarry, I believe I can lead a happy life. What's important is my peace of mind. I won't prioritize marriage for the sake of societal expectations at the expense of my happiness. I'll remember that the person who can value me the most is myself, and I plan to live my life to the fullest. As I entered the house, just as I had imagined, there were many relatives whom I don't usually meet, in addition to my drunken husband. "Oh, you're here. Bring me some water." Having just arrived at my in-laws' house, I couldn't grasp what was happening. My mother-in-law approached with a smirk on her face, holding a glass in her hand. "Here's a drink for the leech," she said, as she splashed the beer she was holding onto me. "My name is Emily, and I'm 30 years old, working at a company. After graduating from college, I moved away from my hometown and started working in wholesale. Work is going fine, and there are no major difficulties in life. However, there is one big concern. That is, I'm extremely shy. Because of my shyness since childhood, I couldn't make friends easily, and even when someone talked to me, I would give cold responses. I never initiated conversations and always felt nervous when talking to people. Still, I'm truly grateful to those who became my friends. I didn't pay much attention to it at first, but one day while walking in the school corridor, I heard voices talking behind my back. They said I spoke coldly, had a bad attitude, acted superior, and various other things, but I didn't let it bother me. Realizing how others perceived me, my legs went weak. But I couldn't let them see me. I somehow managed to leave the scene. Since that incident, I've been troubled by my poor communication skills. I'm afraid of making others uncomfortable and being talked about behind my back. Eventually, my poor communication skills became my complex. Even as an adult, the problem didn't resolve. Starting a job away from home, I drifted apart from friends I had been with for a long time. We keep in touch, but we can't meet in person, and I feel the loneliness of being alone. Being lonely despite not being able to talk to people is a painful reality for me. These worries only deepened, but I decided to change myself when I got a job. However, reality wasn't so easy. Old habits die hard, and I still couldn't speak well at work. Fortunately, my colleagues at work are warm and often talk to me, even though I'm like this. Thanks to them, I can say that work is going well. However, I understand well that I can't just rely on this environment. So, I decided to be more proactive. As a result, after 2 years of working, I've become less shy than before. I still get nervous, but I can join conversations on my own and communicate better. However, I'm not satisfied with that. Looking back now, it's clear that I've grown a lot since my student days, but I still can't be satisfied because my complex runs deep. Still, one day I met Max, who would be my future husband, and my life and perspective would change dramatically. Max works at a shop that is a client of my company, and it seems that his parents run the shop. One time, when the person in charge was away from the seat, I handled it, which deepened our relationship. Max is easy to talk to, and he happily talked to me, even though we had just met. Whenever I brought up a topic, he always responded with a smile. I've met people like him before, but I felt something special about Max. I wanted to talk to him more, to know more about him, and even though it was just a little conversation, I strangely felt that way. Luckily, Max felt the same way about me. At first, we only casually talked whenever he visited the office, but before I knew it, we exchanged contact information and started socializing outside of work. As we spent time together, our relationship deepened, and we went from friends to lovers. After 2 years of dating, Max proposed to me, and we finally became a married couple. My in-laws were warm-hearted, and I felt truly relieved. "I'll make you even happier," Max said during the proposal, and those words are still deeply engraved in my heart. I was looking forward to the happy life that was about to begin. However, after that, I came to know the true intentions of my husband and in-laws, and faced the harshness of reality. The married life with Max enriched my life even more. When I come home tired from work, Max, whom I love, welcomes me. Just that makes me happy, but before going to bed, he always says kind words to me. Even if it's just a moment of married life, it's a great happiness for me. Max supports me, busy as he is, as I help out at the shop while working at the company. He doesn't show his tiredness.
How's the business?
It's going fine.
When can you help out next?
I've been helping out at my in-laws' shop a lot, which makes me feel guilty. But I started helping out willingly. At first, I was told don't worry about it so much, but gradually, I was relied upon more. From arranging products to managing inventory, and sometimes even taking inventory. Both Max and my in-laws have shown me what they value through our conversations. So, I was happy to be able to contribute. But around the time it had been a year since we got married, the situation changed drastically. The management of the shop started to decline. Things were going smoothly until a year ago, but a new large supermarket opened near the store, and the flow of customers gradually dwindled away. Certainly, this situation couldn't be left unattended. Despite implementing measures such as strengthening advertising activities and expanding the product range, the effects seemed to be non-existent. What should we do? Yeah, no kidding. Every time I talked with my in-laws, the sense of urgency in their voices was palpable, and just listening to them made my heart ache. Indeed, this couldn't continue like this. It seemed like my in-laws' expressions were getting darker even a little. And no wonder. The family's store, which had been supported for many years, was on the verge of crisis. But I alone couldn't save the store. Feeling that way, I did my best to improve the store's management. However, even those efforts bore no fruit, and ultimately, we had no choice but to close the store. Perhaps there's some regret lingering, wondering if I could have done something more. During such times, it's also difficult to find words to comfort my depressed in-laws and husband. And with the closure of the store as the trigger, my married life began to crumble significantly. The once warm attitudes of my in-laws started to turn cold.
It's because of you that the store went under.
During the cleanup after the closure, my mother-in-law suddenly shouted. Stunned by her words, I couldn't find any words to retort. Well. My father-in-law followed suit, showering me with bitter words.
Nothing good has happened since you arrived. What are you going to do, you troublemaker?
Troublemaker? Unbelievable. Do they really think I brought some sort of bad influence to the house? It was too harsh of an accusation. Those words hurt my heart as if the previous kindness was all a lie.
The decline in business due to the new supermarket and the eventual closure were recent events. It's all because of you.
Such accusations were unreasonable. How would my husband react to this? Turning around to call out to him as he was engrossed in work, my husband opened his mouth.
I think both Mom and Dad are right. Why did I even marry you? If I had married someone else, maybe the store wouldn't have closed.
My husband's words were different from the distance I felt from my in-laws, who were already shocked.
It's true, this troublemaker. It's unbelievable that you're so calm after ruining our important store. Think about our feelings a bit.
There was an unprecedented coldness in my husband's face. With his words, my in-laws added further accusations. I sincerely wished to escape from that situation. But if I did, I would likely face even harsher words. However, I had neither the courage nor the strength to argue back. I could only stand there helplessly. Since that day, the attitudes of my husband and in-laws toward me changed completely. When I come back from work, the sight of my husband welcoming me with a smile, as he used to, was gone. There were no comforting words or cheerful voices talking about the day's events. My in-laws, perhaps with nothing to do after the store closed, or simply enjoying harassing me, clearly increased their frequency of visits to our home. Honestly, their frequent visits were bothersome. Even when they came, they only made sarcastic remarks towards me.
The more I look at you, the more plain your face seems. It's embarrassing to have a wife like this. Why did I choose a woman like you?
I can't remember. Every time I heard their words, sadness welled up inside me more than anger. If my husband truly forgot why he chose me, it meant he had lost interest in me. Forgetting was too cruel. Even after that, I continued to hear insults from them. It seemed like they deliberately spoke in a way to make me hear. There were times when I retorted, "If you keep saying that, do you want a divorce?" But the answer I received was unexpected. "I can't even think about divorce, Mom." That's right. What would people think if we got divorced? If something happens to Max, you won't take responsibility. Staring sharply at my in-laws, I couldn't find any words. Looking at my husband, he seemed to agree as well. I could only look back at my in-laws in silence. Perhaps I shouldn't have said such things, but I didn't have the courage to propose divorce myself. In the end, all I could do was spend days feeling frustrated. And around 6 months later, my father-in-law fell ill and had to be hospitalized. Max and my in-laws are saying that my father-in-law's illness is also my fault. Including the closure of the store, it seems they want to direct their blame towards me. You're definitely a troublemaker. Dad getting sick and being hospitalized? Dad had always been healthy until now. Everything's been a mess since you came along. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to take responsibility? It's true that I'm worried and sad about Dad's illness. But even if they blame me for it, there's nothing I can do about it. Even if you say that. Shut up, we're the ones in trouble here. My mother-in-law exaggeratedly pretended to be troubled and sighed. Don't cause any more trouble for Mom and Dad. Are you saying it's my fault? Yes, clearly. My husband looked at me with the same severity as my mother-in-law. I now question why my husband married me in the first place. With so much continuous blame, I start doubting my very existence. I wonder if you'll be able to pay Dad's hospital bills. Because of you, the store closed and we're broke. Of course, we both work, so we'll manage. I'm really sorry, it's because of this one. It's fine. Max doesn't need to apologize. The decision to pay for my father-in-law's hospital bills was made without asking for my opinion. I understand that my in-laws are going through a tough time, and there's no issue with paying the hospital bills. But there's a lingering feeling of dissatisfaction that they didn't at least discuss it with me. I don't want to interfere, but I wish we could have discussed the financial burden a bit. What's with that dissatisfied look? Do you have a problem with paying the hospital bills? Dad ended up in the hospital because of you, you know. Well, normally, you'd offer to pay yourself. As Mom said, you really lack consideration. I didn't mean to. Enough with the excuses. Scolded by my mother-in-law and husband, I fell silent. No matter how much I try to explain, it all sounds like excuses, and I know it. Yes. I replied and didn't say anything further. Even after my father-in-law's hospitalization, there was no change in my in-laws' or husband's attitudes. If anything, it felt like they got worse. My husband kept bringing up money matters, saying things like, "It's a good thing I have an income, thanks to you ruining Dad's health and him being hospitalized. You're probably living an easy life thanks to my earnings." In reality, my husband's income isn't that much higher, and I earn slightly more. Still, my husband maintains the misconception that he's supporting the household and blames me. I've even shown him my salary, but he refuses to believe me. Every time I visit my father-in-law in the hospital, I'm continuously blamed with, "Do you know whose fault this is?" My mother-in-law also continues to hurl harsh words at me every time she visits our home. I can't take it anymore. I've been thinking about running away and leaving everything behind. But then, a ray of light shone into my life. It happened 3 months after my father-in-law was hospitalized. That day, my husband went to his parents' house in the morning, and I stayed home alone. However, I received a call from my husband in the afternoon. "Hurry up and come over here." His voice clearly indicated that he was drunk. I replied briefly and headed to my in-laws' house. When I arrived and rang the doorbell, my mother-in-law, who seemed to be in high spirits, welcomed me right away. "Oh, you finally made it." She seemed quite intoxicated. The strong scent of whiskey wafted from her. As I entered the house, I saw my drunk husband, along with many relatives I don't usually see. "Oh, you're here. Get me some water." As I arrived at my in-laws' house without understanding what was going on, my mother-in-law approached me with a smirk. She held a glass in her hand. "This freeloader's here." With those words, my mother-in-law splashed the beer she was holding onto me. My mind went blank. I realized I had been drenched in beer as the scent filled the air around me. "How do you feel?" "Hey, Mom, what are you doing?" Anger surged within me, but as I wiped the beer off my face, I said, "I'm leaving," and left my in-laws' house. As I was leaving, I saw the bewildered faces of the relatives, but I didn't have time to dwell on it. I went back home to prepare to return to my parents' house. Seeing my beer-soaked clothes, the events at my in-laws' house flashed through my mind. With few belongings, packing was quickly done. I could have left immediately, but I wanted to talk to my husband directly, so I waited for his return home. An hour after leaving my in-laws' house, my husband came home out of breath. "Why did you leave on your own?" "You left on your own? Even after getting beer poured on you, you're still leaving?" "That was just Mom joking around, wasn't it? Is it worth getting so angry over?" "Joking? Do you really think that excuse flies?" If there had been just one word of apology, things might have been different. But in the end, they blame me for leaving. There's nothing more to expect from them. "Yeah. Okay, fine, let's get divorced. I can't take it anymore." "Huh, divorce out of nowhere? Let's at least talk about it." "Talk? It's pointless. In the end, it's just you and your mom blaming me, right? Here, the divorce papers. I've already filled mine out, so you just need to do yours." With that, I took out the divorce papers from my bag and handed them to my husband. "Why?" "I'm serious. Preparing divorce papers is normal. Now it's up to you." "Wait." Handing the divorce papers to my husband, I left the house. I heard my husband calling out to me from behind, but I didn't turn back. I headed straight to my parents' house. "Why didn't you consult with me?" When I first talked to my mother over the phone, I could feel her anger even through the line. Feeling my mother's kindness, I couldn't stop crying as I realized how unreliable I had been. When I arrived at my parents' house, they welcomed me with worried looks. Seeing their faces, exhaustion overwhelmed me, and I collapsed right there. I truly felt how great parents are. The next day, my mind began to calm down little by little. I explained the situation to my workplace and took some time off. While resting my body, I started preparing to return to work. "I've made a lot, so don't hold back." "Yeah, thank you." The day I returned to my parents' house, I didn't have much of an appetite, but the breakfast my mother made the next morning felt especially comforting. "Oh, you have an appetite." "I haven't been eating much lately." "I see. Feel free to relax here. There's nothing here to bother you." "Yeah, thank you." As my father said, there are no enemies here. No more being talked about behind my back, no more unpleasant attitudes. It's amazing how normal things can feel so happy. It must be because of my previous life. But that relief was short-lived as the doorbell rang. "I'll go check it out," my father said, heading towards the door. As soon as the door opened, I could hear my father shouting, "Why are you here?" My father's voice, which is usually never raised, was filled with anger. "Is Emily here? Please bring her out." It was my husband who had come. "Emily isn't here, leave." "But Emily's car is here. There's no use hiding her." My husband was also assertive towards my father. Their voices, either willing to give in, grew louder and louder. If I didn't intervene, it wouldn't end. I stood up and headed towards the entrance. "Shut up, you're disturbing the neighbors. Go home." "Thank you, Dad. It's okay now." "Max, what do you want to talk about?" Standing in front of my husband, I thanked my father. "Please reconsider the divorce. It's troubling to be told that so one-sidedly." "One-sided? It seems like it's our fault from the beginning." "Huh? Our fault?" My husband raised his hand, but realizing his actions, he lowered it.
What happened to the divorce papers? There's no way I'd give those to you.
I threw them away.
What are you talking about? I told you to give them to me.
I had thought they might be thrown away, but when it actually happened, I got angry.
Can you survive on your own if we get divorced? You've been relying on your parents this whole time. It's thanks to my earnings that you've managed until now.
I thought it was selfish of you to say that.
What are you talking about? I showed you my salary. You're the one who doubted it was real. Don't worry, I can manage on my own. Anyway, I want a divorce. That's all I wish for.
Don't say it's that easy.
I'm your husband. Don't act like my husband anymore. If you're going to call me a parasite, divorce is the best option. I'll send the divorce papers again, so go home for now. If you come back, I'll call the police.
Police? My husband left looking surprised. He probably won't come to my parents' house for a while now. But he's my husband. I don't know what he'll do next. It seems it'll take some time before I can relax a bit. 2 weeks passed, but I still hadn't divorced my husband. Although I sent the divorce papers, they were torn up. Just when I was thinking about getting a lawyer, I received a message from my husband saying wait. Since my anger had subsided, I thought I'd listen to his last request. I replied okay and waited for my husband's message. A month and a half later, I received a surprising message from my husband.
Have you moved?
Actually, I had moved to a new house. It was a luxurious condo worth $2 million. I couldn't keep relying on my parents, and I found a suitable house. Of course, I didn't tell my husband.
How do you know that? It doesn't matter how I found out. Explain properly.
When I raised my voice, my husband finally began to speak.
I hired a private investigator. Are you serious about hiring a private investigator?
My voice echoed in the newly moved, luxurious mansion.
I thought you might be cheating because you wanted a divorce. I'm not cheating. Anyway, why did you move to such a big house? I thought you didn't have any money?
What I do is none of your business. With that, I hung up the phone and immediately heard loud voices from the other end. Wondering what was going on, I heard my mother-in-law's voice next.
You haven't transferred the hospitalization fee. What's going on? What will happen if your father can't be hospitalized because of this?
We're getting divorced, so it doesn't matter anymore.
It does matter. Your father ended up in the hospital because of you.
Even if you say that, it's annoying. Anger turned into calmness, and I said clearly to my mother-in-law. My changed attitude surprised my mother-in-law a little, but she immediately tried to retort. Since the house is probably already exposed, let's talk directly, okay? I decided to invite my mother-in-law and husband to the house.
When is a good time?
They seemed bewildered at being invited, but they quickly began to make plans. A week later, my mother-in-law, who came, was wide-eyed at the luxury of the new house.
Please, have a seat.
I guided them to the sofa and started talking.
So, what is it?
My mother-in-law quickly started talking about the hospitalization fee, but soon changed the subject to my financial situation.
I thought you were cheating. How can you live in such a house? You found out from the private investigator that I'm not cheating, didn't you?
Excitedly, my mother-in-law and husband began to talk, but I calmly started telling them the truth.
I've been investing in stocks. I didn't know that. I've been doing it since before we got married. I didn't say anything because it wouldn't make a difference if I did. I also didn't want Max to take it away from me. Did you move with that money?
Exactly.
I used that money to pay for his hospitalization fee. But since we're divorcing anyway, there's no need for that, right? So, I didn't pay the hospitalization fee. You kept that from me? Originally, I was transferring money from your account to Mom's account. And if you're earning more than me, there's no need to panic, right?
Considering the fact that I had been hiding my investment activities, it's strange for him to be so flustered based on his previous statements.
Who was it that said they could live because of me? I thought you weren't relying on my income. Huh? Are you trying to play dumb? Don't change your opinions to suit your convenience. And what's with calling me a troublemaker? How did you feel knowing that a troublemaker like me was paying for his hospitalization? Isn't that embarrassing? From the way you're acting, it seems like you still want me to pay for something. It's really the worst, almost childish. But I didn't know about your financial situation. Even so, asking me about his hospitalization fees when you've been calling me a troublemaker and a parasite is strange. Shouldn't you be talking to Max about this kind of thing?
But Max said he didn't know, my mother-in-law said, looking at Max. Her gaze seemed to suggest she thought she was blameless.
Do you even know if your father is really hospitalized? Why don't you know the exact amount? You leave everything to me to manage, and when there's a problem, it's not your fault. It's all my fault.
It's really unbelievable.
Why did I ever marry someone like you?
As I retorted with all the complaints I had received until now, my husband and mother-in-law turned away from me.
Don't you have anything else to say? Then, let's call it a day.
Wait. Since neither of them said anything, I tried to end the conversation, but Max's interference came immediately.
I don't want a divorce, really. Please, reconsider. I'm asking too. Please think about it again.
It's obvious they don't really love me, they're just after my money. It's truly infuriating.
I've had enough. I want a divorce. You're just after my money, aren't you? I'm sick of it. Here's the divorce papers. Sign them. If you don't, I have backups. It's pointless to tear them up. If you come to this house again, I'll call the police.
With anger boiling inside, I thrust the divorce papers at my husband. He signed them, and together with my mother-in-law, they left the house. Feeling relieved that it was all over, I suddenly felt drained. Later on, the divorce was finalized. I ignored all the annoying messages from my husband and mother-in-law. A lot of emails came complaining about fights with my husband and mother-in-law and my father-in-law's hospitalization fees, but I didn't feel like replying. Even if I heard that life had become difficult, it was no longer my concern. My father-in-law and mother-in-law kept sending similar messages, and I was sick of it. Especially my father-in-law, who tried to evoke sympathy by bringing up his health issues, but I've never even visited him, and I don't even know the real situation. I answered one call from my husband, but all he talked about was money. You're always focused on money. Don't expect me to help you anymore. Figure it out yourself. With that, I hung up the phone. After that, I ignored all calls and messages from my husband and in-laws. As a result, a month after the divorce was finalized, I stopped receiving any messages. It's been a year since the divorce, and I'm enjoying living alone. I'm still not completely used to living in the condo, but I'm not thinking about marriage anymore. But sometimes, I feel lonely being alone, so I decided to get a cute dog. Living with that dog makes me really happy. Both my job and stock investments are going well, and I have no regrets about getting divorced. From now on, I'll continue to live confidently as